Hello, I'm Slycat and welcome back to our third channel walk and talk video. Today I'm doing a walk and talk around London, the United Kingdom. And the reason that I'm walking today is because in the last month I've been stopped on my scooter 3 times, and in the last 2 times I was once fined, and then in both cases reminded of the severe illegality and basically threatened with like, yeah, we can take that away just because we want to. And it made me decide that not just, I'd say to take the coward's way out. Honestly, I think if you believe that a thing should be legal, yeah, I think if you really believe in something, that's when it's most important to not do what you're, to do it when you're told not to do it, or to not do it when you're told to do it. In my opinion, that's like, you really should believe in the things, it's easy to just like shy away and do the easiest course of resistance. When you really believe in something, you should fight against or for it or whatever. But today I took the coward's way out, I'll admit, and the reason for that is just because I am trying to learn to drive. It's currently illegal, so even if I wanted the license, which is supposedly one of the reasons they can fine me a lot of money, I literally cannot get it. Just take the alternative. But I want to learn to drive, and you actually, if you get points in your license, which is one of the crimes, one of the things they can give you for riding an electronic scooter in the UK. Yes, that's real, and yes, they really do that. I don't know what country I live in, but it's apparently true. But if you get that, your insurance is higher for a while. Learning to drive is a little bit more of a, has a little bit of handicap applied. Basically, life is a lot harder for me if I'm caught and I get the wrong police officer. And have I been lucky that I've only been caught by police officers that have just fined me £50 of my money for riding a green alternative? Who knows for sure. But either way, I'm here today going on a walk and talk because I've got to be on the opposite side of London. It's about an hour's walk, would be a 14-minute e-scooter journey. But again, today I'm not here to dwell on the alternatives. Although actually, you know what? Let's do that anyway. Let's dwell on alternatives. No, yeah, I want to talk about that a bunch. Like, oh yeah, isn't it kind of interesting that like, isn't it interesting that even though I really do believe in this thing, they have managed to make something that is objectively, to my eyes, there are 2 big problems in the world: pandemic, and there's obviously the global crisis, the climate crisis globally. Like, the form of transport which is making the biggest effort to tackle both those things that's growing right now is e-scooters, and they've penalized me so severely that I've stopped doing it. I am taking public transport when needed, and honestly, I'm gonna try to still walk, but only mostly for this video. Also, man, see, being on a scooter is better, because when you hear stuff like that, you can be away from it faster. It's the real thing I'm trying to sell right here. But yeah, I'm going for a walk through London. I'll show you what lockdown London's right. Right now, we are in a national lockdown. It's called Lockdown Free, and maybe that's interesting to you if you live elsewhere. Honestly, it is mostly a European thing, right? Like, there are some Asian countries and occasionally Australia and New Zealand go into lockdown. This is a state of being that mostly European countries suffer. And I have a lot of thoughts on that too, actually, that maybe we'll dive into in today's video. But I wanted to reiterate a point which I think is counterintuitive to most, which is like, I am straight up admitting that I believe in a thing as a good solution, and I'm not doing the thing because of the personal consequences that I am afraid of suffering. And actually, I think that's something we shouldn't be proud of and be like, yeah, well actually, like, I think too often people are like, yeah, actually I follow all the rules and I'm good. And I think the problem with that is a lot of people don't actually agree with a lot of the things that they insist on keeping in place, it reminds me of like, there's a bunch of laws that are kept in place solely, man, there's a lot of people to hear me talking to myself today, huh? But it reminds me that there's a bunch of laws that are kept in place and then solely enforced at discretion by people, and those are the sorts of laws that lead to issues with, like discrimination based on race, class, whatever else, and that lead to not really understanding what the rules are. If there's something, there's a bunch of crimes that are like technically illegal, like jaywalking in America. Every time I do it, I'm like, ooh, breaking the law here. I can get given a ticket for this, and it can seriously affect the rest of my life. I have to make the judgment in my head as to whether or not to do that based on on factors that are entirely out of my control. Maybe it's a good thing that we learn these things, or maybe this is the bane of our society, because like, who knows for sure. You tell me, internet, what you think. Do you think laws that are well-intentioned but not enforced should be taken out of the books, or do you worry that something interesting that happened in the UK is because of a temporary lapse in like one of the drug policies, almost all drugs were legal for a day. Like, one of the law that made them illegal, I forget the exact actually details here, but like, there was a day where it was technically legal to do them. But in spite of that fact, you might notice, in fact, you probably notice that most people didn't go, oh, it's legal today, guess I can do it, right? And to me, that tells me the interesting thing behind most laws. Like, I think if we did have a purge, yeah, let's go there. Let's go there. Straight to murder already, shall we? I think if we did have a purge, I don't think most people would start going and purging immediately. I think the majority of people would not commit murder, even if it were legal and easy. Would you get a bunch of edgy teenagers doing it? Who knows, for sure, maybe. Would you get the guy who's been resentful and is held back purely by society committing a bunch of murders? Maybe you would, actually. But I think most people don't commit murder, not just because of the punishments, but because they have some moral opposition, or maybe it's even a logistical opposition, you know? Like, even if you really hate someone, planning out how to kill them just doesn't feel good. And also, you gotta get a murder weapon, you know, you gotta clean that thing afterwards. You're gonna get blood on your clothes, like, ugh, who can be bothered murdering people? And anyway, so that logistical thing is actually one of the biggest problems driving green transport in the world, I would say. Like, if you look at all these cars around me, not a single one is electric. If you look at the fact that there's only cars around me and one motorbike over there, and that's also a internal combustion engine motorbike, not a single bike or electric scooter around. And one of the big problems is, like, to get people to take something up, you need like one of the things we kind of think about is that people will be how they be until we stop them being that way. But I think instead we should use changes to try and hint people towards things. It's called the nudge theory. The thing that social media does, the thing that many businesses, the McDonald's of the world, do, that our governments and our big institutions seem to be failing at. I've never seen this road sign before just now. It says tunnel, interesting. But I think the thing we need to get better at doing is realizing that we can't stop people doing things they really want to do. We need, you know, like, everyone points at the Prohibition as being a famous example of things gone wrong, but I reckon the Prohibition has worked really well as a rule against insert, pornography type here that you're not allowed to possess. I think that it's done a really good job against assault. Like, you don't want to, you know, there are a lot of people who really do not want to fight you, not because they don't want to fight. You know, there's a male instinct towards the fight or flight mode that, and 50% of the options in fight and flight is to is fighting right there. But given like there's an instinct towards it, so a lot of people, who knows how many, are held back by, like, yeah, this will have long-term legal consequences if I beat up this stranger. Maybe I shouldn't do it. A lot better than you see in schools. You see the exact same policy, but instead of, like, prison time, you see instead the punishment being something like, oh yeah, you beat someone up, we'll make you not come to school for a day. And you see there's a lot more fun. I've been involved in, like, free fights in my school time, not because I want to fight people. Actually, I think 2 of the times technically I instigated it, but, like, it's happened to me 3 times. I think all 3 times because, like, I wasn't in the wrong. Someone else did a really awful thing or something. I don't think I got in any huge consequences in either of the 3 situations. I don't know what that's meant to tell you about this, actually. Maybe fighting's good, but, like, maybe I should have had some consequences, because actually, do you want to hear all 3 times? One time, a guy was just being a real dick to me and, like, not giving the ball back for our like collective football game. I could tell that everyone that I was playing football with was, like, clearly this is like playground football, was, like, clearly looking and being like, oh yeah, and, like, basically was, like, embarrassing me for no benefit to himself even. Like, he was ruining his own game too. Like, everything was being way worse by this guy, and he was, like, moving the ball behind me. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna stop this right now, and just kicked him in the nuts. And and then he, like, started the whole, like, grappling side of the fight. I don't know why it's so many people's instinct to grapple, but it is. This is pretty, by the way. This is nice. Maybe we should walk more often. Maybe scooters should be banned so that we all take the scenic route through life, you know? Maybe that's a good nudge that you could do. Maybe we should ban cars. It's like, oh god, am I gonna die? I'm not gonna die, it's all good. No unlicensed ice cream trading. For real, do you see that? Do you see that right there? That's the first time seeing that sign too. You know, I should walk through London more so I can point out the signs. I never would have known that ice cream trading is illegal here, were it not for this video right here. Anyway, my battery's on 34%. This video is going to cut out randomly at some point. Hope you're all aware of that. just prepare and your life will be fine. Anyway, so I think that like we should be using nudges more often, realizing that like we can't change everyone. We can't change probably even the majority of people, but we can definitely shift things to how we want it to be. Right now, let's make up an imaginary world where exactly 1/3 of people bike or walk, 1/3 of people take public transport, and 1/3 of people take cars for their journeys. You know, which one's better between the biking and walking and the public transport is a really interesting argument, because they're both the cheapest two forms. Huh, interesting. They're both the cheapest two forms, and anyone who walks or takes a bike rather than taking a bus or a tube here in London is going to lower the revenue and therefore lower the effectiveness of that for those people, meaning more people might take the car. But the point I'm trying to say here is we have to assume some number of people, no matter how unpleasant you make it, will drive their car anyway. It's a really low percentage here in London. Again, in most parts of the country and world, it's like 80, 90% or something dumb. You know, like most people here are disincentivized because not only does your car have to meet minimum standards to drive in London at all, but there's also a fee if your car isn't electric or super green in a way that basically only electric cars are. There's a fee. Where am I right now? This is called the Congestion Charge zone. Just to be here, even if there's a discount if you live here, but just to be here, it's like £7 a day. Additionally, roads suck. Like you've probably spotted that as we're going forward. Like these streets are built for walking. That's just what people will do, and as a result, car usage never really picks up here. Most Londoners don't know how to drive even, which presents a problem in them getting through the rest of the country that we could dive into another time. But my point is you can nudge people from one form of transport to another with these subtle things. There is no law, I guess taxes are arguably a law. There's nothing saying you cannot drive a car in central London, but everyone chooses, nah, that's a terrible choice. You know, the fact that I don't live anywhere near central London, but my rail connections are good enough that I genuinely have never needed to drive in my life. I'm only learning to drive at the present because of America's situation. Even in a big city in America, public transport isn't good enough. Bikes aren't good enough. The cities are too far spread, and there's a bunch of like national park stuff that I wanted to see. That just even if you are willing to do the dumb bike journey or e-scooter journey in my dreams, even if you were willing to do that, they just didn't have a system to accept people on foot or people on from an Uber or whatever else. And so it's like, okay, I've got to do this for my foreign needs. You know, to be an international human being, I've got to take some more. Ooh, I get satisfaction out of being a great constable, and so can you. Oh, is this a police station or something? I wonder. I wonder if they're talking about e-scooters on there, or if that's not a great part of their recruitment pitch. Would you like to tell people not to do things that are good for the environment because of a 1869 law that says only horse and carriages and people are allowed on the pavement or whatever else? Then boy, and only insured vehicles are allowed on the road, then boy, let me tell you about this exciting career opportunity I've got lined up for you. But yeah, ignoring my, ooh, that sounds cool. The Friar's Delight, the tastiest fish and chips in town. I wish they knew it was a city. You know, you can't trust the tastiest fish and chips in town when you're in the middle of a city. Side note, London isn't actually a city. It's actually like a lot of different, whatever, you know, I'm not gonna deal with that now. But there's two cities on the inside of London, and then it's like actually a county, or it's like it's a thing, you know? London isn't a city, but also let's just call it a city because we use the word city colloquially. We don't use it to mean actual things that are cities. That's the second channel video I've got coming up soon, by the way. Talking about the weird status of cities in the UK that even like maps don't use correctly. Anyway, so let's cross the street here, shall we? Let's jaywalk, which is technically a crime in the UK too. Oh no, I think it's within 5 meters of a crossing. It's illegal. I'm just over 5 meters. Don't worry guys, we're safe. But look, American style road. Look how thick it is. Could drive like 4 cars on this. And indeed, lots of people drive if they live on this street. Also, there's rental cars and whatever. Anyway, so I think nudging people towards what you want to do is a much more effective thing, because I don't know of anyone who's had having a fear-based system of policing probably does have some benefits. Again, for the really heinous crimes and the really heinous people, being scared to do something might be a big enough driving force, but you want people to, people feel like, whether you know this or not, most people feel like they're making decisions in their day off their own remit. Even if you go to a workplace, you know, where your day is inherently controlled by someone else, or they take away your ability to live if you don't have, you know, if it's in most cases, let's say, because even in jobs where you theoretically can be saving to get your expenses paid yourself, you know, like they take away, they will make your life significantly harder if you do have savings. They can take away your ability to live at all if you don't have savings. Even though when people go to those jobs, they're making the decision to go there. When people choose to, you know, like to drink alcohol to a dangerous point, they're making that decision. They're taking some control in their life. People want control in their lives. They don't want to feel like decisions are entirely outside of their control. And they also, like, if you try to take that control away from them, a lot of people will resist. And you'll see this in so many different things around the world. That's why it's so much better to nudge people towards a thing. Again, right now, by making them illegal, you're only nudging people away from scooters. You're really disproportionately affecting those that you do catch. Again, 300 people have their scooters seized every month. Would rather that not be me. And the majority of those get points on their license as well, making the rest of their life just a little bit harder in a lot of ways. In some people's cases, making it impossible for them to be able to ever learn to drive, which is, by the way, the only real solution to what they're doing in the first place. So they, ignoring how bad it is for those people, even with that, like, horrific, I think I've been here before. I recognize this bizarre street. Like, I always remember this and thinking like, oh God, it's a dead end. But I know to the right here, somehow this street, by the way, see, this is why people don't drive. This is a real street that cars are meant to go down. It is terrifying. Like, this is nice. I like London. I should do walk and talk videos more often. I would love just being a tour guide in London. That's always been my backup plan. Like, if YouTube goes to hell, if streaming doesn't work, I mean, I wouldn't find an audience for it, because no one wants to see weird dude talks about weird quirks of London as he walks around it. But I love this city. I love going for walks through it. I'm lucky that I can go for a walk through it without having to resort to public transport. Anyway, I was making some point. You know, something like nudging people towards things is better. I think instead of nudging people away from scooters, because that's what you're doing, even by enforcing archaic laws that shouldn't be in place, even by effectively making those laws real. Look at that, there's the Royal Crest. That must be a real royal building or something. But even by using these archaic laws to do things, you're still only nudging people away from them. I guarantee by the end of this video, we will spot an e-scooter somewhere. Even though we're in central London, which is, according to the electric scooter subreddit, it's famously where all the checkpoints get set up to like spot people on them. Somewhere around here, we're gonna spot an electric scooter, and that's the proof that you don't just make something vanish by making it illegal. There's a lot of road laws that exist that people do follow. Some of them are because of enforcement, like seatbelts. Actually, no, seatbelts are, I'd say speeding's because of enforcement. Like, you don't know when there's a camera catching you or whatever. But some of those are because, like seatbelt laws, it's for your own safety. I mean, it's also a law that nudges a few people over towards doing it. It saves probably a lot of lives every year. But also, it's not really enforcement. No one's worried about the £100 fine or whatever from not wearing a seatbelt, probably. Although some people are, but most people aren't, is my point. Haven't actually seen an e-scooter yet. It's interesting how far on the video we are without a single one of those. Anyway, so I think that, like, we need to realize that we can't change people. We can only nudge them. We can push them in the right direction, but they need to go the direction themselves. But it's so fun to be like, yeah, these people who have chosen the wrong direction, these people who have chosen a direction I don't like because I'm in charge of the directions we choose, those people deserve whatever's coming to them. I'm glad those people has been impossible for them to drive. They've got a £1,000 fine, or up to a £1,000 fine, points on their license. You know, I'm glad those people have those things because they're criminals, and I hate criminals. Well, ignoring the fact that you're the one making them the criminals, Mr. Police Officer, ignoring the fact that that is true. You know, if you just don't enforce the law, now they're not. I guess they're also technically lawbreakers, but they're like archaic lawbreakers, like me when I jaywalk 15 times in this video. Yeah, that previous street, that was an offence under the Road Traffic Act or some garbage like that. Anyway, so my point here is you can only set people on a better direction. You can't change the direction entirely. You can't take someone who's stealing cars for a living and be like, hey, I'm gonna make stealing cars illegal, I hope you go to work and become a computer programmer now. It doesn't work that way, does it? it just sadly, maybe we could say, but it just doesn't work that way. And I feel like every day we pretend that it does. We're harming, again, like, you harm a lot of individuals to push a lot of other individuals towards your point, and then it doesn't even work for all of those individuals. Like, there are people like me, for every journey like me, where someone's walking, someone's going, yeah, let's just hope I won't get caught. For every journey like me where someone's walking, there's someone catching public transport, which right now, maybe not so good, or someone just getting back in their car, because even though driving in London is hell, you know, it's faster than walking, and it's less punishable than riding an electric scooter. You know, like, I think that's the thing a lot of cities go wrong with. And I think the reason why is probably like policing in big cities. Like, I think there's an interesting thing about like police in small towns are generally seen as being more part of their community as police in big cities. I don't know if any major city police force, even the most progressive ones in the world, the SFPD or the CCPD, LAPD. I'm just naming acronyms here, but like even the most forward-thinking, trying their best to increase damages in the world, inside cities it never works. And this is a problem we should probably work on. Like, people don't, in those cities, in those places, they don't feel like the police are a force for good. They feel like they're a force for, you know, like, they just feel like they're a force. Someone put it in my most recent comment section, and I agree, even though I admit it's a bit simplified. The police are just there to be the biggest, like, if you don't have a major force, a major gang, one's gonna form. The police are just there to be the biggest gang around, so they can stomp on the smaller gangs. Because you know, if you look at places like Japan, you know, the Yakuza, even though they've mostly died down, or like the mob in America, you know, the local police would have to bow down to them because they were more power. Police is a kind of it does have a power element to it that you need to watch out for. And maybe, you know, like them trying to maintain their power by being like, look, if people break this law, you know, this electric scooter law from 1869, and they get away with it, then they're going to start murdering people. You know, you know, all my videos, I'm like, I just accidentally broke a law here. You know what's going to start happening? I'm going to start saying, ooh, accidentally just broke a law here, and I'm going to stab a dude on the street. It's going to happen one day. It's only a matter of time. If I don't get my lawfulness and recklessness under control, and there is some element of that. The first time you commit a crime, you're super worried about it. Second time, you're like, oh, yeah, this function won't get me caught. I know a lot of people that like have no real concern with shoplifting because they've done it so many times, and it has resulted in no one's even spotted, or no one's told them about it. So, you know, and how do you stop that is a much bigger question. How do you make people feel safer is a much bigger question. Oh look, there's police. Thank God they're not coming after me. I am a law-abiding citizen right here. This is we're deep in the city, by the way. This is nice. I just take you on more guided walks of London. Let's try and get the tourist business going by just strapping a GoPro to my chest and walking. Oh, by the way, how does this look? Tell me, like, I use my chest mount when I do walking talks, because if I hold it myself, like I find the videos unwatchable. My video about why you should spend time alone, I couldn't watch that back because it was just too shaky. And I was like, well, that's terrible. If I can't watch my videos, who am I expecting to do it? Also, I probably should just go this way. That's a cool looking building. Let's do it. Yeah, there's someone biking out there. Or is that an electric scooter? Oh no, that's a bike. It's a very tiny bike. Maybe they actually have stomped out scooters out of central London. Maybe they've done it. I've seen quite a few I saw a few of them today earlier when I was in Milton Keynes, but you know, not a single one here in London. Just gonna check my phone, as I mentioned. I have to off camera. I showed off my passcode on camera once, and it was the most terrifying thing. I showed yes, okay, just gotta text the girlfriend, because anyway, with that said, by the way, look at this. I know it's probably like sound dampening or something, but I really like the look of this building. Is it sound dampening? There's no way you wouldn't ruin a pretty building like that with sound dampening. But also, what else is it if it's not? It's a good question. It's a good question. Today, my goal is, by the way, to go on the Millennium Bridge. There's a pedestrian-only bridge I've never gone on because I've never crossed the river on foot, because I've never had a reason to go south of the river on foot, but which is weird when you think about it, because London Bridge is great, but just usually you take public transport when you go on there. Also, I think that's a dead end. Turn to the right a little bit. there's a person going this way. It's probably not just someone's workplace. And if it is, then you get to see some more shut down London, I guess. Because really what it is, you know, I'm gonna go deep here, apply that exact same thinking to the pandemic. I think people assume that like by making various things illegal, that's what's really made it so much less bad here than it is elsewhere. And ignoring the fact that the UK, again, we're on lockdown 3 right now, this is lockdown 3 walk, ignoring the fact that we have more deaths per capita than America, which has had the rule of like, do what you want outside of the major metropolitan areas, which has the same urbanization rate. People say like, oh, but America's, you know, not as many cities, not as close together. There's a lot of sprawl in America, but if you look at the 80% of the population, you know, the closest 8%, there are similar densities in the UK. Outside of London, we don't have a huge density. But you know, like it proves to me that like you don't cut down a huge amount. You incentivize them downwards. Certain things that people weren't really doing anyway, or were considering not doing, they're like, oh yeah, we have to stop. I'm sorry, I can't come to your aunt's birthday. I don't know why I would, but like, oh yeah, you know, lockdown. You know, I think that's the biggest thing that you prevent. And I think honestly, most of that is probably stopped by the pandemic side of things anyway. Like I have a great convenience not to hang out with anyone right now. Like, you want to hang out? Sorry, COVID. Can't do it. Busy going for a walk around Gunpowder Square. You see that? You already don't actually. Tell me when you see it, and I want to know the resolution of this camera. It's meant to be 4K. It's my new GoPro. I like it personally. Speaking of GoPro, we're on 15% battery, okay. So if we were on 40 before, it means we probably have a few more minutes. Yeah, this is that weird corner of London where it's just offices. I always get lost around here because it's not. Also, we're in the city of London, which is, by the way, see, this is the city. I think they have the wackiest election process. Like, corporations have a vote relevant to the number of employees they have, but the corporation gets to use it. Like this, if you're worried about like a cyberpunk future, I hate to break it to you, but I think the city of London has already beat you to it. Okay, we're gonna go down here. It's gonna be good. Ooh, we're on Wine Office Court. I love the street names around here. See, this is like emptiness. Business people and whatnot, let's be honest, mostly higher paid people, worried about as soon as they could lobby to work from home, and as soon as they were allowed to, they were doing it anyway. They've been doing this between lockdowns anyway. And really, you're just talking about trying to nudge the rest of the population. There are some people, I think lawyers, and people, like, again, there is a potential population, you could shift with any law. You could make it illegal to vote for the opposition. But as long as you didn't, again, like if you didn't enforce it, then it'd be another thing. And if you did enforce it, some people, you know, one of the things I find crazy, in East Germany, they had a one-party state, but they didn't actually, they had a multi-party democracy. They wanted to seem like a democracy. So what they did is they had other parties or whatever, no centralized opposition, but like you can vote for, I forget his name. In his head, his name is Hermann Göring, but I think that's the Nazi guy. Anyway, so they had a guy you could vote for. Is this a tram rail? Like a formal one? Anyway, they had a guy you could vote for, and you could choose to vote for any of the other candidates they had available. However, or maybe it was a write-in, but like there was one guy that you could have voted for someone else, but you did it in front of party officials. So those party officials would see what you did. And then after you tried to hand it back to them, they would check and be like, are you sure you didn't make a mistake here if you vote for the wrong person? And then if you were sure you didn't make the mistake and you put, like the fact that some people, despite the explicit consequences of doing the bad thing, still, you know, he only ever ended up with like 97 or 99.7% of the vote. But the fact is, even 0.3 or 3% of people, even no matter how bad you make it, will still do the thing, because you can never change humans. You can only try and push the marginal humans. You know, there are some people, that guy in that truck, probably have to drive a truck actually. This guy in this, that guy in the car in front of them. I think that's actually, I think all of those vehicles are ones that probably couldn't change to, okay, this guy's car right here. No matter how much this guy wants, like, you know, you can try and nudge this guy, and eventually at some cost he's like, you know, I should just get a bike. There are already nice bikes these days. You can get electric bikes, you know, because the electric motor on a bike, A-OK safe to ride without insurance or a motor. As soon as you put that on a scooter, oh look, on a house this site, Samuel Pepys, diarist, was born. That's a Great Fire of London diarist, by the way. I should learn what you can actually see with this camera and what you can't. You might have just been looking at a wall as I read out a plaque that you couldn't see. Let's just read out fake plaques that are supposedly off camera. Oh, do you see that clock up there? Oh, it's like 5:55. crazy how late in the day it is, but it's still sunny. It's almost counterintuitive. But like better infrastructure is how you push people towards bikes. But now we have to admit bikes are morphing into bikes, e-bikes, and electric scooters. Most people will still ride a bike because they're the cheapest option and they're the easiest option, and they feel the safest. They might even be the safest. I don't know the stats on per capita accidents, and we don't know the stats because they're illegal, but like they might even be the safest. But I remember this street. I rode up here on my electric scooter when that was not when that was okay, maybe. Anyway, my point here, Dorset buildings. Should we go down there or go down there? Let's go down. Actually, no, I like the small little alleyways. There's just something so poetic about these, right? Poetic's the wrong word. Oh no, it's a dead end. Oh no, is it a dead end? It's not a dead end. It's a dead end for cars. Oh, and it's a dead end for people too. There's a gate at the end of that. But maybe, just maybe, there's a passageway for people? Oh no, it's a railing. Is there a way to go down? Here maybe? They played myself. Oh, what is this? What have I found myself at? Well, this is fun. See, this is a great way. Disincentivized thieves exist down a no-through street, and then no one has a reason to go past your stuff. No one thinks about how nice it'd be to live in an office like this. Man, I would love to buy an office this size and just ride a scooter around it, which is legal because it's private land, by the way, because, you know, laws. Anyway, I think, let me talk about, let's go back to the primary point of this video. I genuinely believe that I think I should be riding my scooter in protest. I should be trying to outrun, like that's the correct thing to do, to show them that no, you can't make laws that make this go away. You know, that's my ideal. I think I should be promoting e-scooter ridership as much as I can to my audience. I should be doing everything I can to make this stay, because I really do believe, especially if I think the first time you ride an e-scooter, you might actually be a danger to yourself and people around you. I think the second, the fifth time, you might still have some danger. Once you get used to it, it's like riding a bike. If the first time you rode a bike was down these London streets, you're going to cause an accident that's going to injure yourself. Wouldn't recommend it. Go to learn to ride somewhere where there's no vehicle traffic that can kill you instantly. Okay, we're here apparently. Oh, I guess I haven't been down that road. I just imagined that I had. Look, City of London Police. But rather than, in my opinion, this is just my take, I think that you should, I think things that you believe in are important, but also the reason that I'm not following the thing that I believe in. First of all, the personal consequences are too high. Especially America is really, really arsey about having any form of criminal record, as best I can tell. And as someone who has to visit America a lot for work and pleasure, I don't want to have that whole extra layer of hassle. I was already held in detention for 3 hours the last time I tried to go there. I'm expecting that again when I come this time. I'm hoping it doesn't happen, but you know, I hope the e-scooters are legal, but that doesn't make it true. And existing in the world that you really live in is also important. I think there's a concept I really like. It's called a hill to die on. By the way, did I see an e-scooter just then, or did I imagine that retroactively? But there's a concept called a hill to die on. And the idea is, picture like a war. You're going into battle. You can, if you're going into war and you're battle or whatever. See, that is a bike, but it's basically a scooter, right? Look at the height of those handlebars. That's just a rickshaw. The rickshaw is okay because it's not electrically powered. And if it is electrically powered, it's a bike and not a scooter form factor, which makes it safe. I'm so confused by how that's allowed on the cycle superhighway. I bet it's not actually. I'd love to look into those rules. But yeah, basically, oh God. Basically, my point here. You know what, do I have a point? I bet I don't. I bet I'm just mad. That's what it really is. Wouldn't it be interesting if there was police there again today? I'd find that hugely interesting. So I'm gonna cross. I'm gonna wait till the light says green. And when it says green, I'm gonna cross. It went immediately green actually. Oh, here we go, there's a scooter. I found one, point proven. Scooters exist. you don't make them go, oh, there we go, there's two. You know, you wait all day for a bus and then two show up at once. Am I right? And look at him, he's following the law, waiting for the light to go red, because you know what? He didn't turn into a massive criminal in all the ways. But there is a high chance that he probably would have been. Like, as soon as you realize that laws are just a construct, then why not just focus on the laws you care about yourself? Am I right? Am I right here at all? I kind of want to go see if there's Met Police on the bridge again, stopping scooters. I find, oh, there totally is. There's a guy on a bike. Oh no, we don't know for sure. That's like a lot of people wear green jackets when they ride scooters, when they ride their bikes here. So you can't be 100% sure that he's with the police that way. But he is doing something very interesting. Anyway, so let me just check it off to the right here. Okay, so going back to my point here, I think that there is a concept called a hill to die on, and the idea goes back to war, right? Like, if this hill that you're trying to capture right now, you're going to risk your life. You know, if you're in a military situation, you're going to risk your life for this. Is this the hill you want to die on? Because you're going to have to accept, if you're fighting for this hill, there is a chance you'll die on this hill. And obviously the real version of this becomes like, what belief do you have so strongly that you're willing to make it your one big belief? Oh, I think that's a dead end. It's a very bizarre dead end. You know, oh, this is Blackfriars Bridge, by the way. I forgot to mention that at any point in my last video, but this is in fact not London Bridge. It's Blackfriars Bridge. Also, there is in fact no one stopping scooters today. That's nice. You can be free today. Don't you dare ride e-scooters on a Thursday, a Friday. You ride them on a Monday though, Tuesday. I do my days of the week. I should learn my days of the week better. You know, am I right? Lockdown, no days of the week. It's basically March 2020 over here. You get it? Because time doesn't pass during national lockdowns. You know what's confusing? People who don't live in countries like that, where they're still like, oh, time hasn't passed. And it's like, what do you mean? What do you mean time hasn't passed? I've seen so many people saying that, but they're also still going out to restaurants every week. They're also, not that that's a thing I care about, they're still doing everything like normal. You know, traveling around, etc. They're like, yeah, this feeling I'm getting, am I right? And it's like, no, unless you're lawfully, unless you're bound from not doing those things on a regular basis, you do not get to claim this moniker. See, that's me being a gatekeeper. Speaking of gatekeeping, okay, my battery's super low, and I have to know when it turns off. We're at 3% here. You know, I actually have a spare battery. I'm gonna switch battery, because I want to walk over that. That is the Millennium Bridge. In my head, it looks way bigger than in reality. Maybe it's just so far away, and soon it will look bigger. I don't know for sure. I guess we'll find out when we get there, won't we? But I'm gonna switch out batteries in my camera now, so be right back. Okay, here we are with the Millennium Bridge. I've got a little bit of battery. I'm gonna talk to myself like a crazy person as I walk over it. It's gonna be a good day. But yeah, the concept of the hill to die on obviously comes from war stuff, right? Like, oh yeah, you would have to actually physically die on a hill, so you better believe in what you're fighting for. But I also think that, you know, the colloquial version that comes from that, you know, the saying comes from, and now anyway, yeah, so that version is really interesting to me, because it actually is kind of true. If I was to continue, you know, trying to rebel and showing that people do rebel, that would be my one thing in some case. Like, I'd have to make sure that's a hill I'm willing to die on. Not that it's that pigeon flew so close to me. Not that I think that it is a actual, you know, like, not that like having harder insurance problems and country entering problems and learning to drive problems is necessarily dying, but it is a real hardship for life. Oh, that's cute. They got a little stair lift in case you don't want to take the stairs. But yeah, I think that knowing that, oh look at the pigeon just jumping down the step. If this isn't the cutest thing you've ever seen, tell me what is. Tell me what is, internet. I love pigeons. Like, I wish we had cats instead roaming the streets. But if we have any animal that used to be a pet just roaming the streets doing its own thing, I'm glad it's pigeons. Anyway, if we don't get them, I guess, yeah, I don't like dogs. Dogs, like cute dogs when you own them, yeah. Dogs when you roam in the street have terrified me for my life more than once now. Oh, once on video, you saw that. That was in what, Hawaii? You want to see me fear for my life because a dog's gonna come off me and I'm too far away from society, go watch my Hawaii video. That's where you can do precisely that. Anyway, so, oh, look how pretty this bridge is. Wow. Man, climbing stairs takes more effort, more breath than I thought it did. So, the thing I wanted to say was words, then more words, and then I want to say that hills to die on are it's a really interesting concept because, like, for instance, if you want to protest the murder laws, you're going to put you away for life for that. I think normal protests are pretty fine, but protests where you do super illegal stuff to prove your point can only go so well. You know, like, there are some things that you better make sure it's your hill you want to die on. I know, for instance, if you're advocating for a world with, you know, whatever your belief is, you know, usually this comes from like the political, like, yeah, if I believe in really strongly that all schools should be free and that's your hill you want to die on, then, you know, like if someone disagrees and they're like, actually, I think that having the option of private schools, or disagrees and they say, no, I think private people know how to run schools better because they can discipline the children and they know they're being there. It's not this free service that, you know, you can make some argument. I've never thought about education, don't ever intend to, but you know, you're gonna alienate everyone who disagrees with you if you make it your hill to die on. Whereas if you're more reasonable about a position where you're like, yeah, this is what I like in the ideal world, obviously we should move towards that as best we can, you'll attract a lot more friends and a lot more supporters to your cause. Thanks. That's good. First person to point out I'm being crazy by talking myself. But you'll attract a lot more. Man, I literally can't overtake here. Whole problem. But you'll attract a lot more friends to your cause if you are more reasonable with them. But there are some things, like, you know, I do believe that murder is bad. That is a hill I'm willing to die on. You try to tell me that we should legalize murder, I'm gonna stop being friends with you. Okay, I'm gonna try and sneak past here. I don't affiliate with people who agree with murder. That's bad. And but by doing that, everyone who's a murderer, which is hopefully very few, although I see a surprising number of like legitimate, non-ironic, you know, Stalinists and Trotskyists and Maoists as a result of my dumb political videos that I make in Minecraft, by the way. But I see a surprising number of those. But I guess they're like, you know what, Toy Cat? You ever think about how your alternative is murder too? And it's like, well, it's not explicit murder. I mean, we can maybe have a discussion about how, you know, if you have to work or you'll die, is a bit different to you have to die because you're from the ethnic group, which gives us a lot of problems politically. You know, you could you could try and make the similarity, but you're not going to find many friends when you try and do that. You know, knowing what your hill to die on is probably a very good idea. And ideally, I mean, I think everyone needs a hill, right? I don't know what mine is. I think it is people who don't believe people are good inherently. You know, like I believe we can nudge people. There are people who are super authoritarian, and the logic for being super authoritarian is that, like, well, people are bad. They need to have rules to stay in line, or they won't, you know, or they'll do some terrible stuff, you know. By the way, there's a big sign saying cyclist dismount, and then there is a cyclist not dismounting. Wow, that's it's easily a £50 fine right there, right? Except it's not. We say you know, like cyclists running red lights, there's so many laws like that exist in theory, but we say the practice is like, well, let's try not to disincentivize these people, you know, let's just try and encourage them to do the right thing. And I think encouragement to do the right thing works really well, not only on a collective level. Oh, that's a good view of the St. Paul's Cathedral, but it does work really well on a collective level. But I also think that it works really well on an individual level. I also think that if you're someone who's doing something you really dislike, you know, at some point you might have to be like, snap on them and be like, hey, if you do this more, we can't be friends. Or you just be like, hey, you just give it a little nudge. Just be like, hey, prefer you didn't, but it's cool if you do, because you're you, and you get to make your own decisions. Live and let live, you know. I had a teacher try and tell me that once. I think he tried to, I don't remember why, but he had a big like presentation on his like beliefs. Is like, you know, he played a Michael Jackson song, like War. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing, something like that. He's like, yeah, we should try not to hurt each other. That's bad, probably. Attitudes like that, at the time I was like, well, you're kind of ignoring that, like, most people aren't in favor at war at any period in time. But I've grown up in a period where the only major war we started was Iraq, and then we tried to start one in Syria, and then never really got support for anything besides airstrikes. I've grown up in a period that's very anti-war, but I guess if you've grown up older than that, then you've just seen like, oh yeah, no one wants war, but it happens anyway. See, that might be a good thing to protest for. If you protest those things, you know, if you protested sending troops into Syria, maybe you saved a bunch of lives. Maybe you could argue that you actually cost more lives because now the brutal regime is still in power, although not really in power, but then using chemical attacks on their citizens. And you know, maybe you could make some argument that actually you did a terrible thing. Your hill to die on has led hundreds of thousands of other people to die on their hills, but it did save people from your own country. And then that raises the whole thing of like, would it be worth killing 7,000 of our own people to save 100,000 people in another country? And like, okay, maybe by itself, but what about also we're ignoring the democratic needs of that country, but then that country didn't have a full democracy like we do. You know, you can you can talk about these things all day and dive down things, and that's why you kill Saddam, because you can make a pretty compelling, there are very few positions where there aren't compelling arguments against you, and you need to know, you can't have some people I've met, everything they believe is the correct thing. And the worst bit is like, sometimes they're like just reciting something they heard on some you know, progressive or conservative outlet, whatever the lines of their views. They're just like, and this is correct, it's the only way it's going to be. Sure, I only read that one progressive or conservative outlet, but that's just how it's got to be. Like, I don't know. I think there's I think it's really easy to frame data in the way that you like. And I think that we should probably have a culture of better journalism where we talk about the other side's opinions in a generous way, where we assume the best from those who disagree with us. I think we should assume that, again, I think, contrary to the narrative that forms every 4 years in America and every 5 years in the UK, although actually we've had 3 elections in the last 5 years, so I guess, and also a referendum, so who knows how things really work here. But like we have this rhetoric of there are people who vote for the bad party, and that's just 40% of the country that are bad. They want pain and suffering. It's like, well, you're not going to win over voters if you genuinely believe that there is a collection of people that just want pain and suffering. And anyway, my point here is, I think, so one of the things I saw, the reason this came up at one point, so there's a protest group called Extinction Rebellion. They are also really in favor of protecting the environment. They're very extreme. If you look into who founded them, their story is insane. Like, not, oh, it's like really impressive or it's really interesting. No, like it's literally insane. Like it's someone who went to, I forget which South American country it is. You know, the South American country everyone goes to, and then joined a collective sex cult, and then came back and realized that all of life should be that way because we can be green. And oh, this is cute. This looks this looks like someone's playing a game, but I love it. This is really cute. I don't know what they've done here, but I'm a big fan. I'm a really big fan. If whatever they're trying to sell me, I want to buy it. Oh, it's a theatre. Oh, they're trying to go for like an old school theatre, because no one who watches plays likes modernity, right? So you look at me generalizing incorrectly. Anyway, so my point is that yeah, so this group of people, they have some reasonable beliefs. A lot of people would agree with them, but what they do is there's like threefold. One fold is they'll like block a road somewhere and be like, stop driving your cars. We're gonna make it slightly more unpleasant for you to do that. That's what I actually think is good. But then you get the wacky offshoots, because when you have a wacky group of people, like, you know, take humans, the wackiest group of humans, pretty wacky. Take a wacky group of people, their wackiest group is gonna be wacky squared. And you know, there's a lot of reasonable people who of course agree with the idea, but then there's some people who are like, oh, public transport uses electricity, you know, like even if it is electrically powered, electricity comes from mostly non-green sources. And so the idea that they have, their opinion, is sorry, I thought I was overhearing some bizarre conversations about me behind me. Anyway, look at me being paranoid like that. But the second set is like, oh, public transport therefore is bad, and they'll slow it down. They'll stand on it to stop it from being able to move. And be like, yeah, you go walk. And realistically, what that does is it means people have to take the, you know, they have a logic internally, but they're stopping a lot of working people getting where they want to go via the greenest method that can take you long distances, that isn't a bike or an electric scooter, or walking for hours. I think we're pretty close to an hour right now, actually, speaking of walking for hours. Yeah, I actually might have to start running soon to make it where I want to be. Because even with an hour of time allotted, I still don't have enough to make it across London Bridge. I'm going to that big building there. What am I going there for? It's a secret. Illuminati style secrets. Okay, I think I'm going this way. But, okay, my final point here is the third thing they did is like, let's start a financial rebellion. And so they're like, don't pay your mortgage. Don't pay your credit card debt. If we, you know, like, because the world is built on debt. If the debt stops being paid, eventually we would have some serious issues. But if you're a small group, that's a really dangerous game to play, because the individual consequences for playing that game and hoping you break the financial system, because, you know, they can't take all of our houses away, right? But the dangerous game is if they try to take just some of them away and sell them to the rest. Really, really bad things happen. You will have a hard time getting credit, and it will mess quite seriously with the rest of your life. When you do certain forms of protest action, like block it, you can get in some very serious long-term damages for yourself, prison time, or a criminal. You know, like, these things can really affect the rest of your life. And I think that's why it's important to know what hills are you willing to die on, and when do you have to say, okay, I'm going to wait. In July, the government are doing a review on scooters. That's when I decide, you know, if they decide like, oh, they're so dangerous because of the trail areas, that's when we'll decide that it's no bueno, and that's when we'll give up and we'll e-scooter to death. Or maybe I won't actually. Maybe I'll just ride it. You know, I'll work out the, or maybe I'll just paint it green like a lime scooter. But anyway, my point is, then there is a time and there's a plan, and you gotta be as level-headed as you can and as reasonable as you can if you want people to be attracted to your cause, even if your cause is objectively right, which I'm not going to say that I am. I'm not going to ever claim any opinion I have is objectively correct, but if it is objectively correct, it doesn't mean you get to enforce that will on other people, because then you're just like the bad guys. Am I right? Yeah, that's a good finishing point. Thank you for watching. Third channel. Don't care. Hope you enjoyed this walk, and goodbye.